Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So let's finish up with our user rows here. This is a list of all available user rows, and we want to show them as a checkbox. So if we go to Bootstrap website here, just because we are too lazy to type, we can select one of these, which is right here. I can copy that. And let's get back to our view file. So this one is inside the user rows plugin. And let me close these. We don't need the controllers. We are on the views page on the list. So right here where we're displaying our permissions, instead what I'm going to do is say permissions, or just call them perms like that. Yep. Let's do that. So once we have this, we can now put an if statement here and say if not empty perms. All right. Let me paste what I copied from the Bootstrap website, like so. Okay, this should be a one-liner. So let me do this. Then let's put the end for each here. Okay, so we loop through that, and here we will echo whatever permissions are there. Actually, this is just an array. It's not really an array of objects. So I'll do this. Escape. And over here, I will duplicate this, push this inside. So this is an if statement. So here I should put end if, and then here we put a for each statement. Like so. Okay, so there we go. Now let's get back to business and see what we've got. So this is how it looks now. So these are check boxes now, which we can check whichever we want the admin. So for example, the admin, you can choose what rows he can take. So if you put all here, then it just represents everything instead of selecting specific ones. So let's see here, we have all. Okay, so at this point, I think if I click on this, see, it highlights that first one instead. So that's because of the IDs here. So I want to change this ID here. In fact, what I would do is, let me add a variable called num here and echo it there. I'm gonna say check and then put a number there. Okay, so in this one I'll say num is equal to 0 after the full colon there, and then here I'm just gonna say num plus plus. That way every time I loop, num is added to and it's here. That way each one of these is kinda unique with the ID. So if I click, it only selects the one I have clicked. Okay, so that's great. What else can we do? I want to remove the underscores there. You can leave them if you want. So I can do a string replace. I'm looking for underscore and I'm replacing with a space. the subject is perm, like so. Okay, then here we will need a value, so there's a value here, and that value is a perm right here, like that. Close. Okay, so that's the value, but we need different names for these things because otherwise the same value will be repeated multiple times. So let's put a name here. Let me remove that. So the name here is check, and yeah, let me copy this. So we need a system here. So there's check here, or checkbox, then underscore, I put the let's see, another underscore. Let me do that. Let me put num here for uniqueness. But over here, I want to know what, yeah, I think this is fine because the permission itself, no, I need to know which row we are dealing with here. So here I'm going to say row ID, and then that number there. Wait, row ID here, checkbox row ID. I don't think we need this number here at all. Okay, so all I'm trying to do is make these guys unique, because on every row these will repeat. So if I just say, oh yeah, so the row ID is unique to this particular row, so at least it will be checkbox 1 for all of these down here, which also it doesn't make it unique because this is going to be checkbox and then 1. So yeah, so I think I need that num there because number for each row is unique as we are looping through here. But then also don't forget we are looping through the bigger loop here for each row, and then within each row we are looping again. So that's why we need these two unique numbers here. So for example, this ID is row 1, so this is going to be like checkbox underscore 1 but sorry about that, there are many rows here, there are many checkboxes, I mean. So if all of them were titled check 1 check 1 check 1, then there'll be a problem. So in this case it's going to be check 1 underscore and a unique ID there. So let's see this in action. Boom. Now the reason is whenever you add this, you have to be careful about those brackets. Where are those brackets? Ah, doesn't look like there's a bracket anywhere. So maybe there's an issue here. There's a row ID. Okay, so what the issue is. Okay, so sometimes if you can't see the error properly, just right click and view the page source. Then you can go deeper here and see actual errors. So warning, undefined variable row. So it doesn't know what row is on line 38. How come? Oh, okay, it's a row like this. Sorry. Okay, there we go. Now I want them to, oh, wait a minute. The replacement here is replacing, we should put a space like so. I was replacing with an empty string. And then I want them to go to be true on each line. So what I would do is here on the div I'll say call md sex. That way they get to share that space, and apparently they are not sharing that space. So what I can do is put a class name here, or maybe instead I can put a div inside this and close the div here, push everything over and put class row on this one, gutter 3. Okay, so there we go, and there it is. So we have this, but this has overgrown, I guess. Why does this change nothing? That's even worse. Let me put 2. Let's see. Yeah, that looks much better. But the maximum width here, let me put max width to maybe 200 pixels. Let's see what happens. Alright, too little. Yeah, should probably put this on the table data instead. Yeah, that looks much better. Okay, so there we go. We have this. You can put a cursor here on these guys. Let's see. Div, the entire div, I guess. You can say style, cursor, pointer. Yeah, it doesn't work at all. So we need to move this style to the input itself. No, to the label, actually. I'll put it here. Much better. Okay. Alrighty then. So we can select some of these and actually save. So I'll put a save button here to save permissions. I will copy from this button, but within permissions here, I'll paste there. Something like this. Then let's put some styles here. Wait. Yeah, this might not work. Let's put a div instead inside here. Instead of disturbing the table styles. So I can say class, and I'm gonna say display flex, and then justify content between. That way they separate like that. Okay, and then the icon instead would be save, like that. All right, so we can save permissions here, add a new one, edit the existing one, and delete. So let's make sure those UIs are actually working as intended. So let's start with the add user row. So we go to add here. Let's remove the image part, so we don't need this image. So instead of new, that's new record, let's remove the entire script tag here. We don't need it. Okay, so save back. We don't need password and retype password. Let's see here. So here we select status. This one will be disabled. Okay, disabled by default is 0 or 1 here. Wait a minute. We'll say active. We'll have yes and no. No is value 1, yes is 0. Let's remove this part here. And what about the rest? So these others, non-starter. Here for first name, instead will be row. And then let's put row here. Alright, Cool. Let's refresh, and there it is. So the placeholder is first name, but let's do row or row title. Okay. E.g. admin. Okay, so you can put your row title there, save, active, yes or no, back, so add new record, great, back. How about edit? Same thing, so let's go to the edit version of things. So edit record, let's remove the image. Let's remove last name. Let's remove email. Gender is changed. Actually, I can just copy what I did inside add. So let me copy all of this up to here. Inside edit. So from there up to here, paste. Let's tab in. I'm gonna remove the password and retype password part. Right. Only thing we need now is row. Disabled there. And here a row. Yep. So let's refresh, and there we go. So admin, active, yes, back, edit, back. How about delete? Same thing here. Let's go to delete, and I'm going to, yeah, maybe not paste, but I'll remove everything except this gender part. Change that to active. And what's happening here? Gender. I don't need any of this. Disabled. So instead of all this, we'll do this here. No. Yes. And then instead of first name, let's row. Same thing here, row. Let's remove this image part. Alrighty then. There we go. Are you sure you want to delete this record? Edit the record. Add new record. So let's try a new record. Let's add a human resource row. Status active, and hit save. Okay, so undefined variable user on line 15. So let's deal with that. So in the add controller, oh, it doesn't know what user is, right? So there's user row instead. So let me select all places where I did this. So this is going to be user underscore row, like that. And we don't need no password here. We don't need no date. Okay. Record added successfully. Form expired. View. We're not expecting any images, so there's no file data. We don't need this file. Okay. Instead of add user here, it's gonna be add row. Okay, I think the rest is history. Let's go to the delete version. Delete row. So this part here instead. Right. Instead of email here, we can put row. There is no file that exists here. Alrighty then, looks good. Let's go to the edit. Let's remove the, oops, I went too far. Let's remove this part. Let me make sure I didn't remove the CSRF. Okay, I didn't. So edit. Let's remove the file data. File OK. What else? Let's remove this. Let's remove that. Update post data. Let's remove this. Right. We don't need upload errors here. It's not a thing, so let's leave that one array out. Okay, I think we are good to go now. So if I refresh and resend, okay, record added successfully, but we're on the view file and it doesn't look like what it's supposed to. Also in the edit here, let me select this and edit it. Alrighty then. Cool. Let me close all files. Now we go to the view.php here, and I want to remove all of this, maybe up to gender. Let me remove this. Row. Row. Active. The usual stuff. Okay. Let's remove this image part. Alrighty then. Okay, so there we go. If I click edit, it takes me to the edit version of things, back, and there we go. So we have human resource active, we have admin. Let's try and deactivate this one. Save. Okay, so now it's deactivated. Active, no. So active, yes. Save. Back. Okay. Very, very good. So we can add, edit, and do stuff here. The only thing remaining is we should be able to save these permissions. Okay. Now, in order to do that, this is on the list view. So we have to create a controller for our list view as well, so that once we submit something, it actually is saved. So we can save these guys. What was ticked specifically here. Alright, let me refresh. Now one more thing before I forget, if we go to responsive design here, you see that things disappear. They're actually downstairs here. But this part here is because of what we added in our basic admin. So let's go to basic admin plugin here. Inside the plugin itself, I want to remove there's a bypass that I added, this one here, which says false. So let's do that. So users should be denied access if they are not eligible to view the admin page. And then on top of that, we go to the view here. There's a part where I stretched the sidebar. I think it's good. Height 100 VH. This is the one here where there's a style 100 VH, line 183. So I'll remove that and let's save. Okay, so that works better. So we can click here and see our thingy there, but then boom, there it is. Not sure why it moves so much this way anyway. Let's move this. Okay, there we go. Okay, so responsive is good. Now let's select these guys over here and hit save and see what happens. So what we're going to do with this is go to the plugin.php. Let me close all files. So inside plugins, let's close the basic admin section here. So I'm going to user rows here, and on the controllers here, I don't know which one to copy, maybe the edit. So I'm going to copy this. Inside controllers, new file, paste, save this file as list controller.php. Okay, so in here we save what's in the list. And let me load the list thingy here. So we need this whole thing to be a form. So I'm going to do this and say form. Method is post. Since we are not saving any images, no need for changing encoding type. But down here at the end, let's close that form. Okay, pretty good. Now that it's a form, it means when I hit save here, it should save. So if I say save, let me refresh. If I say save, it actually refreshes the page, which is cool. Okay, so now we need the controller to do stuff. So we don't need rows to be anything, so we're not finding any record. So let's remove this and that. So we do need our post data to be something. And what I'm going to do is this. So let's look at the data that we are sending. Also inside the list view here, let's add our security, right? So let me move this inward. Okay, there we go. So with admin, I want to save all, and human resource manager is responsible for adding users, deleting users, viewing users, edit user, not quite with editing rows. So view user details, probably yes. Okay, and he can view the admin page as well. Admin view has that. So that's cool. Now if I try to save this, let's go to list controller here, and I'm gonna do this, and let's look at the post data that we receive and die. Now before even that, if I go to plugin here, .php, when we go to the controller part, which is this one, we don't have one for list, so we should add that. I'm gonna do this and duplicate this last one, and this one is list, like that. But yeah, list controller, there we go. Wait a second. No, actually it doesn't even have list in there in the URL. It just doesn't have anything, so we'll put an else statement here, like so. Yeah, we're missing a curly brace here. Now we have two here. Let me remove that. Okay, so an else statement there, great. So if I now come back and refresh, not refresh, but save permission, this is what we get. This is the data that I got. So as you can see, the numbers here, because of the double numbers here, at least we get a very unique checkbox in every single item there. So undefined variable row on line 5, let's fix that. Line 5 has row, so we don't really need this at all. What else we need? So edit permissions. If I go to the plugin here, what permissions do we have? It's edit row, view rows, but let's do edit permissions. Edit user permissions, yeah. Or let's just save it as edit permissions. Okay, so that's much cleaner. So now what we want to do is grab the information here and save it appropriately. So we don't need the numbers at the end. These were just to make every line unique, because otherwise without these numbers, these threes would be identical, right? And then this number here at the beginning is the ID of the row that we're talking about. This is the admin row, and this one is human resource. So all these are permissions for human resource. This one is for the admin. So things are working as intended. So let's come back to the list controller. So what we need to do here now is to loop through these guys and figure things out. So we don't need to do any validation here at all. So I'll remove all of that. We just need this CSRF to work. And edit permissions. If that's acceptable, then yes, we will do what we want to do. So user row is here, and then update. Okay, so all we want to do is find if there's anything with this ID and then save. So the table we are saving in is this one, row permission. So we save the row ID and the permission. So it's straightforward. The row ID is this one and the permission is this one. Okay, so I just want to loop through these guys and then collect all of these, but I'll put them inside IDs, like each particular ID. So first of all, I just want to remove this here. So here what we would do is loop through. So unset ID, it's not even a thing. So while we are in here, let us loop. So I'll do a for each loop of post data as key and value. So value is important. This is the permission. The key is the ID, the row ID. However, the key is weird because this is the key. It contains all this data, but we want to remove everything except the number in the middle. So what we'll do is say row ID is equal to string replace. Now let's use preg replace. In fact, string replace can work here just as fine. So we are looking for checkbox underscore. Let's replace that with nothing inside the same row ID, like so. All right. And then once we have this, let's duplicate one more time because we've removed this first part, but now we have a number here and another number there. So I just want the item at the beginning. In fact, let me preg replace the number at the end plus the underscore. So here we'll do preg replace this time. This one we can use a regular expression instead. So in there what we'll tell it is we want to deal with the end, of course. We want numbers 0 to 9 at the end, but then we want an underscore first, and then this number these numbers can be any amount. So what we are saying is check at the end of the string. At the end of the string, any numbers that are there, so an underscore plus some numbers, remove all of that, replace with nothing. At this point, we should be left with a numeric ID. So here I'm going to say data now. What do I call it? Organized data or something like, yeah, let's just use data anyway. Data is an empty array, but what we'll do here is we're going to say data row ID, and then let's save that particular permission at this time. Okay, so now once we get to this point, we can show what's inside data and die. So remember that we're trying to reorganize what we see here. Okay, and also we have to make sure that checkbox is in the string before we do any of this stuff. So once we loop, we should, instead of just replacing immediately, we'll say if string, right? The haystack is row ID. What does it have? The needle is this. It should have this in there. So if it does, then if it doesn't, we continue like that. So we'll put a not here. So if not this, continue. Otherwise, do your thing. Then let's see what's inside data. So at the end of the day, we should reorganize this part. So what I can do is show you this before and then after. So let's grab post data and put it here. Okay, so let's refresh and resend. So you see now we had this originally. Now this is what we have. So the problem with this is that this part keeps replacing until it got to the last one, and that's the only thing it kept. So just these two, and that's not what we want. So what I want is data row ID, but then I'll put two more brackets there at the end to say that should be actually an array. And if I refresh and resend, this is what I have now. So I have a key that represents the row ID, and then all the permissions that that row has been selected with. This one only has one, that's the ID. That's the admin, sorry. This one has several, which is human resource. So all I need to do now is loop through these guys and then loop through each one of these, find one, or either save a new file, new record, or create a new one. So here we'll have row ID, but let's put that ID here. One of us will insert, the other will update. Now the first thing we have to do is disable, because there's a disable here. Let's disable all of them first, and we need to be wary of this. Let me go to functions here. Inside the user can, this is one thing I forgot. Actually not here. This one is in the basic auth plugin function. This is the one that collects the rows, which is right here. So when we grab a permission, we should make sure that that permission is not disabled. So here where it says where, we can say where disabled is equal to 0 and row ID is in here. Same thing here, select row ID from where user ID is equal to user ID. So even here we'll have to do where disabled is equal to 0, and yeah, just to make sure that we are not getting disabled or non-active stuff. Okay, So here we'll say permissions saved successfully. Okay, and we remove this like so. Okay, great. Okay, so at this point now the data we have is this, so we need to know what to do with this. So let's grab each item and loop through it. So at this point we are saving. Oops. Save to database. Okay, so to save we have to loop through there. So for each data as ID. Okay, and then value here is equal to permissions. Several permissions there. Okay. So for each single permission, we have to try and find out if one already exists, if a record already exists. So we have to look at the permission name and the row ID. If that combination exists, then that's already there, then we enable it. But first, let's disable everything. So disable all permissions. Like that. Okay. Now if we don't do this disable process, what would happen is that when somebody selects, let's say this was already ticked as part of this one, and then I untick it. The moment I untick, it's because that data is not sent to the server, so it won't know and it will ignore that, and it will just make it impossible to disable a permission once you enable it. So we disable all of them and then enable those that were ticked. So here we'll just run a query real quick. So I'm gonna do user row and then use the query function instead. And I'm gonna say update what do I have here? Vars tables. Oops. What table is this? Permissions, right? Permissions, row permissions table. And then we concatenate and then say set disabled is equal to 1. Yeah, just leaving it like that is enough. Or you can say where. It's a good idea to always add a where clause, where ID is greater than 0. That just means everything, right? Or if you don't put a where clause, then it will just disable everything. So disable is equal to 1. We run that, okay? And now we save to database, so let's loop through. Now what we will do is we'll run a check. I'm going to say check is equal to user row, and then here we'll try to grab the first that we can find, and in there we have row will be equal to, okay, so this is a loop, but this is an array as well. If you check this, the result is an array, so we should loop through that as well. So for each permissions, here I don't really need the key, I'll just short it to perm like that, and yep, that should do it. So let me move this inside here like so. Now that single permission I want to check against the permission perm, and we have row ID equal to ID, comma. Okay, so those are the two I'm trying to find. if there's a result inside the check here, or let me just call it row. So if there's a result, then if row like this, and then an else statement. Okay, so if the row exists, we have to update. So I'm just gonna come here and do this. So here we'll use this row ID, whatever the ID is of this row we've just gotten, and then the data is just disabled, being set to a 0 so that we enable it. And then otherwise we'll have to insert new data. In fact, let me just grab this. So insert if it doesn't exist, and to insert we don't need that. So let me move this guy over like this. Let me duplicate a couple of times. So first of all, here we need to deal with permission and row ID. So row ID is going to be equal to this ID here. And then after that we have a permission, and that permission will be equal to perm over here, and disabled will be 0. Let's remove this and a message there and redirect. Alrighty then, unless I've forgotten something, this should work as intended. So I'm going to come back and retry this. Resend. So there's a syntax error, unexpected perm on line 31. So where is that? Here. Why is this unexpected? Okay, so I should move this here instead. I had put this on the wrong place. Alright, let's try this again. Alright, so we don't see a difference here, but let's check our system here. Oops, so nothing saved there either. Okay, so I'm gonna put die over here just to make sure that whatever errors come up, I can see them. So let's try again here. Look at that, we ended up saving in the wrong place. Okay, so I see what's going on. We saved here instead in user rows, which is a mistake. So let me show you what you can do if you make a mistake like this. So let's run an SQL. Let's delete everything that's bigger than ID3. So we'll say delete where ID is greater than 3. Go. Alright, now if you come back to browse, you see that there's 3 here. Let me actually put it on 2. But the problem is if I add another record, it will start with 11 or something, because that's how far we had gone. If you don't want that, you can run an SQL and say alter table user rows, and then here you say auto increment is equal to 3, and go. So the auto increment is changed. Now the next record will be equal to 3. Okay, so we are saving in the wrong place, and that's because we are using the wrong let me even remove this here. We're using this wrong thing here. Yeah. What we are supposed to do is create a class or a model that deals with this, the user rows. So let's see, do we have a user rows model? Oh yeah, there is user row, but wait. It should deal with user rows map. This one, wait, nope, row permissions actually. So it's this one, row permissions. So let's create a let's create it. So we're going to do PHP thunder. We'll say make model inside the user roles plugin, and we'll call this one user underscore permission, singular, remember that. Okay, so then it's created. So there it is, user permission. Everything seems good. User permissions is the table, correct. So the columns that we have are these. So I'm just going to copy that line, put here. Boom. So let's do that. Let's do that and delete this as well. Goody. Let me copy this. Same with the update. All right. Here we needn't validate anything because the user is not inputting anything at all. So we can just ignore these guys here. We don't need to type anything, or we can delete this like so. Like that. Yeah. So user permission is what we need here. So what I'm going to grab is, if I go back to my plugin, where we are here on the list controller, we have this one, right? But I want to activate this one as well here. So instead of user role, I'll change role to permission. The rest remains the same. Let me confirm that inside user roles models, user permission, yes. That S over there isn't true. Why is there an S there anyway? Oh yeah, because that's the plugin name. Okay, so that's correct as well. So here it should be user roles. So this was my bad, you know. I should have left it to be rows here. Oh my god. Okay, so hopefully this is the only place I was instantiating it. I think. So let me go back to the model itself and put an S there, because that's the correct namespace. Let's come back and try again. So here we find an error. Let's just figure out where this is, because it's just an issue of wrong spelling. Plugin 114. So plugin 114, it's right here. So wherever this is, let me try and find all instances of it. I think it's just one, so I'll put an S there, refresh, and there we go. Okay, so pretty cool now. Now, since we have that, let's go back to plugin here. This one, user permission, that's the one we have to use on the other side, so in the list controller. So we have to use that one on here. Let's see. Row permissions, disable all, this is fine. So at this point, maybe we can even use this one here, it's more appropriate. And here as well, like that. Okay, goody. And let me remove that. So let's give it a shot, shall we? So admin all, these ones we have, yep, that is true. So let's save. Okay, so permission is saved successfully. That's good. So if we check in here, oh no, permissions were not saved. Let's hope we didn't save in the wrong place either. No, we didn't. Okay. That is not cool. Okay, so what's happening here? Let me put that die part to see what's going on. Put O here. Let's go back here. Let's do that. Okay, so there we go. Undefined array key row permissions on line 25. Where is this? 25. Right, row permissions. It doesn't know this one. Let's go back to plugin with PHP and see if we can find it here. Yeah, it's the permissions table. So there we go. That's the correct thing to do there. Let me remove the die. Or let me leave it alone, just in case. Refresh. Okay, seems about right. If I click here, this is disabled. Okay, things didn't go as planned. For each data as permissions, then permissions as perm. So row, user permission. What's happening here? So the disabling part worked just fine. This did not. So I guess with this update, this didn't work. Even this didn't work. If I roll. Okay, so let's go step by step. I want to see if we get to this point. So just say here. That's how we debug, I guess. Let me refresh. Let's resend. Okay, so code to undefined function message. Wait a minute. How is message undefined? Oh yeah, message is undefined. It should be either message success or... Wait, where is this from? Message, where? Basic admin plugin 32 PHP. Okay. So inside basic admin here, plugin 32. So there's somewhere here. So this one will be fail, like that. All right. Access to admin page denied. Okay, so the reason here is that we should start with our basic admin page. Basic auth should be the first one, but is it? This is index 2. Basic auth should be index 1. So everything is correct. So what is going on here? Something is weird. View admin page. Wait a minute. If page is equal and user can view admin page. Okay. Oh, because we disabled that. Right. So you see this is disabled now in the database. So what I'm going to do is enable it. And let's go back to the admin section, user roles, all there, and let me add these, just a couple, and let me save. Okay, so here works. Let's go back again to list controller here. So we are getting to this point. It's just, I guess, this does not find any results. And if it doesn't, it should have inserted here anyway. So I'm not sure what's going on, but let's do this. Okay, let's try again. Refresh, resend. Okay, so it keeps disabling this. So we'll have to come back and enable it again until we find the problem. So back to admin. So we were here. That destroys my concentration. Oops, I refreshed instead of saving. So it's all empty here. It doesn't find any of these. But even if it didn't, it should have come here. Okay, so let's see. Row ID, permission, disabled. So what is the problem? Okay, it should have come here. Let's see if it goes to the insert, or at any point does it go to the update. Alright, so back, I'm sure we have to enable this here. Now let's try again. Okay, so there's a part where it goes insert, 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 insert. So why doesn't the insert actually work? What is going on? What is the issue here? You know what? I can check actually if there's an error. So say user permission. Let's do this. Wait, I've forgotten what it is. Has error? Oh, error. Yeah, I think it's just error here. That's the last error that was sensed. Let me enable this one more time. Let's refresh. Okay, so there is an error. So base table or view not found. Plugin user permissions. Okay, so what is this code then? It's called row permissions, right? Okay, my bad. Wrong table, right? Let me remove all of this. So the permissions table is user permissions. So wait, what is it really called? Row permissions. Yes. Row permissions. Permissions table. So where is the error? After insert, right? User permissions not found. Okay. Permissions table. Oh, right. Okay, so the problem is in the model itself. Instead of user permission, this should have been row permissions. Yeah. So instead of user here, let's change that to row. Given this to row permissions like that to match the table. So rename the file as well so that we can match the table name. Row permission, row permissions. Now we have to go back to the plugin user rows and change that instantiation as well, which is right here. It should be row permission. Okay, now it should work. Fingers crossed and resend. Right, I forgot that we do not have permission. So let's just go back to the admin, user rows, and all. Let's tick these babies here and save. Okay, so let's see what we got, and voila, things did work out. Now if we go back to the list controller, we can remove the die part here. We can resend this again. It won't harm anything. And here we go. Permissions saved successfully, and indeed they are. But now we need them to show here what permissions we actually have. So now is our time to use the after query function. Oh, is it? Because we need to know, yes, we need to know which one of these maps to which one here. Okay,